Hey there, Optional Dev here. This time I wanted to recreate the Destructible Terrain from Worms. Here you can see how it works in Worms Reloaded. And here you can see the end result I was able to come up with. So let's go over how I achieved this. I started with creating sprites for the worm and the grenade. I also got a PNG of a Godot wallpaper I made that will be used for the terrain. In Godot I set up the project with pixel snap, a yellow background and input actions for left, right and jump. I also made sure to re-import the background as an image. I then went on to create a scene for the map. A simple Node 2D with a sprite. To prevent weird rendering issues later on, I turned off mipmaps, repeat and filter for the sprite. Turning centered off places it to cover the viewport. The code simply generates a one-dimensional open simplex noise, which is used as a cutoff on the y-axis to generate the terrain. Editing the pixels of the map is done by calling set_pixel on the texture data. I also quickly create a main scene with a Node 2D and the map scene. Map generation is done now. Next, I add a node called collision to the map scene. It will keep track of which pixels are solid and which are air. It's just a 2D array which keeps in sync with the map sprite. A boolean represents whether a pixel is solid or not. We can't read this info of the sprite every frame because that takes too much time. The player scene is another Node 2D with a sprite. The code checks a row of pixels depending on player input. The worm is then placed on the best free pixel. After adding a player to the main scene, we can walk around and jump. The grenade scene is a Node 2D with a sprite, timer and label. I add some simple physics code and we have basic grenades. Next up, some more advanced physics. The collision script of the map gets expanded to return normal vectors for each pixel instead of a simple true and false. That's calculated by looking at the surrounding pixels. Here's an example with S denoting a solid pixel. The grenade then uses this normal to determine how to bounce off a wall, floor or ceiling. The next step is the explosion. Similar to how I generated the map, I just manipulate the data of the map sprite and update the collision array. For some polish, I make a simple explosion animation and add it to the grenade scene. After some minor code adjustments, it looks much better. Another tiny addition is a second sprite in the map that I modulate a bit darker. In code I make the explosion radius a bit smaller for the holes in this sprite. This gives a subtle feeling of depth. And that's it, Worms like Destructible Terrain. You have to write your own physics engine for this, which is kind of a bummer, but it's not that hard. The player physics is an example of maybe cartoonish physics, while the grenade can help you with a more realistic approach. You can look up physics normals if you didn't understand my quick explanation. It should be possible to optimize the collision.gd by switching out the array with the quad map, but I didn't get that working and performance was good enough for me. Lastly, for different ideas and approaches, I've linked some further reading in the description down below. That is also where you can find a link to the project's GitLab page where the code is commented in great detail. Until next time, happy coding!